Good morning, everybody. This is Judy England. Many of you know me as Yoga Judy. So I'm here, at least I'm virtually here, to take a few minutes to talk with you about how we're going to make our way through this extremely difficult and challenging situation that we're in right now that's consuming all of our thoughts, all of our time, and so much of our energy. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a nurse. I'm a yoga teacher. I'm a wellness educator. And currently, I serve as the health education coordinator for the NORC, which is an agency that's all about helping folks age in place. So, living where they want to live for as long as they want to live there. And I also teach health education programs just to the general community. So I got a question for you. It depends on how old you are. If you know the answer to this one, you remember the movie Jaws? Yes, that movie that kept everybody from swimming in the ocean for at least a couple of years after it came out. When things were getting dicey and the shark was really getting aggressive and going on a rampage, the captain called out, "We're going to need a bigger boat." So I guess you could say that as we're navigating these very turbulent and unknown waters of the COVID virus, we might all need to take a look at the personal boat that's carrying us along through this situation. So I thought I'd share some thoughts with you today on specific ways you can help the vessel of your body and your mind come through the storm to a safe harbor. So I know everybody's situation is very different right now, and I'm certainly not trying to minimalize or trivialize what's happening. On the contrary, I'm suggesting that we apply what we already know about stress and its relationship to wellness to help us be a little more proactive as we move through these uncertain days. So, first of all, it's helpful to talk about some way that specifically that this situation is producing stress in our lives. First, our day to day lives have been drastically changed. I suppose you could say they've been turned upside down, inside out. Change is not comfortable. And generally, the older we get, the more challenged we are by having to make changes. And I don't know about you, but our familiar routine is just gone out the window. For example, if you are a working mom, you get up, you take care of your kids, you go to work, your kids go to school, you stop and pick up groceries on the way home, plan a simple dinner, whatever. Sounds simple, but it's not that easy now that we're working from home or not working at all. The kids are with you all day, and the grocery shelves have been cleaned out. So it takes time to restructure. These things don't happen overnight, and we haven't had the time to do that. We've just had to deal with what is the situation in any one particular day. Secondly, we don't have a say in most of these changes. There's a profound lack of personal control over what changes we are making, what changes we need to make, what changes we may have to make in the future. It's hard to remember when we talk about change that there's really only two things that we have control over. The first is what we individually choose to do, and the second is how we choose to react to what other people do. That's it. That's all there is. There isn't any more than that. So, looking at those two aspects of change, the fact that it's not comfortable and that huge issue of lack of control, let's take a look at each of those things and see how we can utilize them to perhaps build a bigger, stronger boat for ourselves. First of all, change of any kind, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, is a source of stress. But The good news is it's also can be a tremendous source of creativity and inspiration. I personally enjoy very much the writings of Dr. Kelly McGonigal. She's got a book out. It's called The Upside of Stress. She talks about just this aspect of stress. She says her definition of stress is what arises when something important to us is at stake. So let's face it, there's a huge stake involved in this situation. Our health, our health of our families, our livelihood, any number of things. When we're challenged by choice or by circumstances to have to think outside the box, we can come up with some pretty amazing ideas and alternatives. Just by way of example, here I am learning to use the computer to do virtual wellness things. I've never done this before. So it's a whole new thing. And I'm worried, can I figure out how to do it? Will my message be meaningful? Not to mention, how will I actually look in a video? But there's only one way to find out, and that is to try it. What's the worst that could happen? So Dr. McGonigal reminds us, she's also got a TED Talk out, which is about 20 minutes long. Very, very helpful to watch. She says there's an optimal level of stress. In other words, if there's too little, we have no motivation to change, to be creative, to think outside the box. If it's too high, we get incapacitated. So what we're aiming for is this Goldilocks zone when it comes to stress. So the question is, how do we find that? How do we find that optimal level of stress for function? So we can help ourselves, guide ourselves into that optimal zone, that Goldilocks zone, by understanding how this sense of control works to reduce stress. So you could probably list right along with me all the parts of this situation that we don't have any control over, the unknowns. I'm talking to people all day on the phone from the NORC, many of whom are living alone. They're telling me they're scared, they're frightened, they feel cut off from their families, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So things like, how bad will it get before it gets better? When will it get better? When will I be able to go back to the business of making a living? And will I or a family member actually contract the virus and have to deal with that? And what's with all the hoarding of supplies? I mean, this is really, I keep thinking these situations bring out the best and the worst in people. And that's one of them. So those are pretty big things, pretty big things. But when I look at all of those things, I can also sit down and make a list of all the things I do have control over. And here's just a few that I wrote down. I'm going to read them to you. I can practice the recommended hygiene procedures to keep myself and my family safe. I can help myself by establishing a routine. Get up in the morning, get dressed, make my bed, make a schedule for the day, and follow it. I can reach out to others via the phone, via email, so to help them feel a little less frightened and alone. I can choose, this is important, I can choose to be selective in how much time I actually spend watching the news, watching the social media, and instead invest some of that time in pursuing things that are of interest to me that maybe I didn't have the time to do before. Reading books, following your hobbies, maybe doing some artwork. I'm trying really hard to learn Spanish, and I've got a great free program through the library that's helping me do that. So I try to carve out a few minutes each day to take a lesson. And I want you to remember, when it comes to limiting the amount of time you spend on the media, is that we are fed by what we take in through our eyes and through our ears, not just by the food we eat. So try to take things in that are positive, that are uplifting, that are nourishing to you personally. Next, I can find ways to laugh and enjoy small moments of joy with myself or with my family. Um, Personally, I'm a fan of videos of baby goats. I don't know what it is about baby goats, but they really do it for me. No matter how low I'm feeling, if I tune in a few seconds of those, I feel better. I can go for a walk in the fresh air, hopefully at social distance. And I'm beginning to appreciate here in the Northeast the signs of the coming warmer weather. There are robins, there are green shoots coming up through the ground, and I take that as a welcome sign of hope that things will change for the better. I can take good care of my physical body, eating right, exercising, getting enough rest. Of course, I'm going to put in a plug here for my personal favorite, which is yoga. It doesn't take a lot of fancy equipment. So if you're one of these people that likes to accumulate gear, maybe yoga isn't for you because you're not going to need a whole lot of supplies. Um, if you're so inclined, you can even do it in your pajamas. You can roll out of bed and just get onto the floor and do a little practice. There's lots of great videos available on the internet to help you begin a practice or to support you if you already do have one. I can take some steps to manage my personal stress with meditation, mindfulness, perhaps spiritual reading and prayer, talking with my family and friends. Again, you know yourself better than anybody. So, what is it that has worked for you in the past? Look at that, go back to that, use it, utilize it. And I can take a moment to pause and breathe. If I feel that others are not behaving the way I would like them to, we have never any way of really knowing what another person is experiencing at any point in time. So, patience, kindness, compassion trump everything in this situation. I can take a moment at the end of each day to express some gratitude, either mentally or to write it down for the good things in my life at this moment. They might be small things, but when we recognize them and acknowledge them, we etch them into our memory and becomes a great source of strength and positivity. And I'm sure you're thinking of you're generating your own list. I would encourage you to do that. Take a few minutes, maybe sometime today after you watch this video, or anytime you have a moment, just to jot down those strategies that have worked for you in the past. We learn from our experiences. And I guess one of the gifts of being the age that I am now is that I've been through a lot and maybe not 100% successful, but I'm still here. So think about things that have worked for you and build on those. So again, this video is not meant to minimize, trivialize the situation that we find ourselves in right now, but it's hopefully giving you some ammunition to build that bigger boat. So I'm hoping that you find this message helpful and that you utilize it and perhaps share it with your family and friends. So in closing, I'd like to say, may we be happy, may we be free from fear, and may we all know peace. Namaste.